I am actually no, you won't hear me say this. In about 20 seconds, you'll about to hear me from this. Hey, from Melbourne. Praveen is out here from Melbourne. Yes. So I'm just making sure the live is golden, having delayed an hour, making sure everything is good. I just wanted to check my audio. So right now, let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With this camera and this mic, there is a slight delay. And so I'm going to listen to myself here and double check that my audio is golden. Here it comes. And my count will be... Okay, the audio looks good. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off, and I can rid myself of this. We are going to be live shortly, and as 8 minutes from now we're going to be live, I'm going to give you guys a quick behind the scenes of one of my adventures while I get the last final stuff checked out and ready to go. And also giving everyone a chance to join us here at 6 p.m. as promised. So, real quick, I'll be back. You'll be hearing me in a second. Gone this far in ever before.
Yeah, and we're not even halfway there yet. I think it's like 11 or 14 miles.
14 miles
track.
Of this flat salt area?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, so right now we are heading out in the salt flats. Tonight's Milky Way number 2 is in the Bonneville Salt Flats, and it's dry right now, and so we are driving just on top of it. And I don't know where we're going, really.
We're just following tracks. Oh, you just got off the tracks.
Oh, I'm nervous. Like, any second it's gonna be muddy.
But there's nothing around. It's just empty.
Where do you think we should go for our Milky Way shot? Because it's just gonna be a panorama, Milky Way going up and over the big flat area. I was hoping for some shapes. I was hoping for some maybe water, but I got nothing.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I don't know until we get out there and actually look. There might be like some salt crystal shapes and stuff, but it's almost like macro type stuff. So I'm not sure how it's going to show up with the Milky Way over it. It'll be a challenge for sure because it's just totally flat out here.
Let's get out and try looking at the area and see if we like anything or hate anything.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, it's wet. Oh, so salty. So crazy. Look at that crystal goodness falling down. And this is all super hard, but this stuff we went over earlier was wet.
This is a lot harder than I thought it was when I was driving over it.
It's like if you smear it, it's like a little bit moist, but it's like, I mean, it's like rock hard, man. Normally there's totally like, it's like a thin crust and like mud underneath it, right?
Yeah, look, we've come out here.
This is damp still, it's still wet, but it's solid, man. I mean, this is just a solid piece of crystal.
We have been out here before where early in the season it's more kind of a mud. It's like a crust on top of mud.
Well, I think it's a different area.
So over there more it has that.
Yeah, whereas this is just, I don't even know how deep this goes, but it's just a solid piece of salt.
So now we gotta decide, where do we go? Where do we shoot our Milky Way? I mean, we could come all the way out there, or we could continue out. And it's weird because you see the light in the horizon and you look over, it's dark, but it also seems hazy tonight, and possibly no good. But up there, yeah, you can make out Jupiter. Really bright.
So blue. It's so like this interesting light blue.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Milky Way will come through. We'll see how it goes. The great Milky Way chase continues. There's no clouds in the sky, but a weird haze on the horizon.
Okay, so as we progress through the night, the Milky Way, that's blue hour, then it's out in astronomical at about 11:15, and the core will be in a good position.
What's it look like for arching pano? Like move over to the left.
Maybe
See where the whole arch goes.
It goes up and around and comes all the way to where the sun's setting practically.
So we're gonna deal with an arch that goes and touches those rocks right there on the left.
Yeah.
So the arch will terminate there,
Right in
and
the
then
middle of those
go out to
It'll
here.
go up and around this way, and then come all the way down. The core's gonna be barely risen. That's not 11:30, because as we can see, the moon's following. The moon's following the Milky Way, so the moon's gonna rise right around 12:30. Well, it looks kind of damp, but not really.
But we're also getting some shapes.
Yeah, true. We are. If you look at the, wow.
We're getting
okay.
texture. Well,
Sort
okay,
of.
I'm not seeing any of that. Man, look at that. So Brendan's way out there right now. He's got shoes that don't have holes in them. As proud of my slippers as people have called them, Jeff has called them slippers. I really like my shoes, and they're comfortable shoes to drive in and comfortable shoes to scout in. So still wearing them, and Brendan's the only one who has shoes out there that can go in the water. So he's checking out what's over there, and he says there's some geometric shapes, there's some cool stuff, and so maybe we'll be standing in water tonight for the Milky Way.
Hey, so we're out in the salt flats now tonight. We found that puddle of water that we were looking for earlier.
Yeah, it's nice.
We're starting at the edge. We're gonna go a little further deeper in, right, and see if we can get a little bit cleaner water.
Yeah, we're trying it here so that we have that berm lower in our frame, and then that divider that it basically becomes, the divider between the real Milky Way and the reflected Milky Way.
Yeah.
And here it has this place, but if we go closer, that's gonna be higher in our frame or lower, depending on how we shoot the angle. So
Yeah.
we're just gonna try both. We have plenty of time.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's less, right here, there's crystals are popping up, a lot of crystals popping up out of the water. And then further in, it's more just water.
So you're saying the
smoother
salt
surface.
crystal dirt is coming up out of the water and
Yeah.
making ripples and bumps.
Not ripples, but bumps, yeah.
No movement ripples, but
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
lumps in the water
Yeah.
instead of a glassy surface.
Right, right.
Okay, cool. I get why we want to go in closer for that.
Yeah, so we're not getting like the best reflection. We're still getting a decent reflection, but we
pretty
can definitely
decent.
get better if we go maybe 100 yards out that way. So.
Okay, cool. Let's try it out.
So we're gonna walk out a little further and see, right now you can see the bumps, they're rising above the water. The water is very, very thin here. It's very shallow. So we got a little bit, what's a little bit deeper, even just an inch, not even an inch, half an inch more. And then it covers the salt bumps and we can get that nice glassy, perfect reflection.
Let's do it.
It gets really flat. Look, the bumps go away. I think this is a good spot, maybe. Yeah.
You're definitely in deeper water.
Yeah. See how the bumps go away and it's totally flat? It's so crazy.
So now we're in position. This right here, we got the camera set up with the Milky Way has risen, astronomical twilight has ended, so it's full darkness. And this camera, the 5D Mark IV, is sitting here with a Rokinon lens. It's got the 1.4 Rokinon 24mm. It's fantastic, even though I always stop it down to 2. If I use it at 1.4, I have a little bit of coma, a little bit of stretching, especially in the corners. But if I bring it down to 2, all that gets knocked off. If you were doing your focus and use that Carson Lumi Loop and you're watching that ball right there, that big orb, you go from this to this just by changing it from f1.4 to f2. So it's a huge change. But now I'm looking at the histogram and checking out, do I want 8 seconds with 8,000 ISO, 8 seconds shutter with 10,000 ISO, or 8 seconds with 12,800 ISO. So check out the histogram. Let me show you guys what you want to look for. Even though this is askew, look at the picture. You can see how it's turning out pretty well. And this is with 8 seconds at 8,000 ISO. Making sure everything is good, and then we're about to go live. We are at the exact 6 o'clock time, so it looks like we are good to go. Just about have all my tech back turned up and on. in the right place, where I expected it to be. There we go. Okay. All right. Let's do this. Volume low. Let's find out if it is. We'll be fixing that for you, Guppy Guy, and making that better here momentarily right now. Sounds low to you too? Okay, let me just double check and see what's going on behind the scenes real quick. I have it at 4. Usually I have it around 4 decibels. Let's go and do that. Let's bring up the amplification. So now that should be a lot more. I'm going to turn this guy up, this guy up. Let me know if that fixes the audio, and we'll go live right now over here. All right, let's get going. I'm going to set up one last thing, setting up my cursor to be nice and giant so that you can see everything that I've got. And then we'll go live. And then in the replay, this will be cropped right off from the beginning. All right, done and done. And then, okay, let's do this. Here we go. Volume is good for Gerald. Awesome, sweet. Moving in, let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome in. I am Aaron King with Photog Adventures. There are a lot of new faces here today. In fact, those of you who are out here, oh, you know what? I don't think I've copied and pasted that info over. Let me make sure that I have that right here. I want to show your guys' chat right next to me right here. And so I want to double check and make sure that that chat is set up right here. Looks like, oh good, we are good to go. Whew. It's all there. Awesome. So welcome in everybody. My name's Aaron King. If you are new to being in a live stream with me, you know that I am watching your chat over here on this monitor over on the side, and so that's where you're going to see me looking all the time. And if you have a question, a pressing question that needs to be answered, there's a chance that I might not be able to answer it based on where I'm at in the webinar, and if it just doesn't fit, I can't get to it. At the very, very, very end, I will answer it if you remember to ask me about it. Otherwise, if you have fitting questions that are right with the topic that I'm going through and I can clarify it fast enough, I will get to it. But I require that you guys let me know over here in the chat that it's important by doing in all caps. If you go for all caps, I'll be good. And everyone says volume's good, volume's good. Okay, sweet, awesome. Hey, welcome in. Sorry for the delay. This computer has been brilliant for these live streams, but it had not cooperated today whatsoever. But that's okay. A Photog Misadventure is a good way to start our evening together. So if you guys want to let me know in the chat where you all coming from, there's a lot of you who might be watching this on a replay in the future. Hey, welcome in. Welcome from the future. Hope everything's going well. If you're watching this, you can't respond, but you can always email me anytime, aaron@photogadventures.com. And if I'm not busy with a queue of emails that I'm trying to get to, I will respond to you. As some of you have found out, there can be months when things are so tight that you get put in a queue and you don't hear back from me right away. But I'm available, so let me know where you guys coming from, as well as how many times have you been out. If you've been out doing Milky Way photography more than 5 times, just write 5+. Otherwise, I'm curious, where are we sitting between 0 and 5? These should be mostly beginners. I recognize some face and names out here, so I know that there's some of you that are not absolute beginners. So I'm curious where we're all at. We've got Boston, San Diego. I was talking to one of you earlier. Who was it? At the very beginning of the feed before, it was Argus. Argus is out in Santa Cruz, and I used to live in Monterey. I love Monterey. And John Henry's, how was your workshop in Oregon? Wish I could have been there. C'est la vie. Well, I have another Oregon workshop, John, coming up in October, 4 nights. And so I hope you can join me there. Good, but the lip sync is off. Oh, did it go off again? It goes off and on. It's a crazy thing. Let me go ahead and try switching this 400 millisecond delay and see how that does it. You guys let me know if you're seeing a sync that's off. I saw the sync was on when I first tested, but it's possible that in this sec that it's kind of updated through YouTube. Let me know. Florida, we've got 5+, 2 times. Guppy Guy said he's been out 3 times. Michelle Snyder in Florida has been out twice. Praveen from Melbourne has been out for 4 times. Jerry's definitely been out. In fact, Jerry, you have almost a full 35, 34 achievements for masters over in MilkyWayPhotographers.com. So Jerry has done a lot of Milky Way photography. He's joining me today for good time's sake. And hopefully, as the delay will come, you guys can confirm. Oh, it's good now, Chiz says. Chisholm, maybe. So you guys are letting me know. John Harris more than 5 times. Rob R 5 times. We have a very solid group of beginners. Definitely some people who have done it before, know what they have challenges with, and we'll see if any of these 3 key elements will get you there. Lip sync is better, Argus says. Awesome. Sweet. Okay, that confirms it. So again, if you have any questions as I go through the presentation today, if you have any questions, hit me up over here in the chat with all caps. Important questions that are fitting, I'll answer right away. Things that are fast, I'll answer right away. Things that are delay and off the topic, I'll have to get to at the very end. But as long as I see the all caps, I'll know, all right, I'll get back to that question. Hey, from Arizona. Hey, James. All right, let's roll. So again, I'm Aaron King. I have been a part of Photog Adventures. I started Photog Adventures back in 2016, basically to chronicle my adventures, podcast, YouTube channel, and that grew from there, teaching Milky Way photography all the time. It grew from there into a workshop opportunity in 2017. Taught a workshop with PhotoPills, Raphael Pons. He encouraged us to get a group together so he can teach how to use PhotoPills. We had plenty of podcast listeners in Utah here that have wanted to learn, so we started doing workshops then, and I have been doing workshops ever since. Absolutely love teaching Milky Way photography. If you haven't seen any of my YouTube videos already, you'll see this is the channel. You can come back and watch everything. In fact, I want to point out that as I'm going through these 3 elements that are the keys to making sure everything works. In fact, let me close out these 2 windows right there. These 3 keys will take a beginner and turn them ready to become a master. Is it the only thing you ever need to do? No. Is it absolutely critical that you get these 3 things correct? Yes. And will it be the difference between an okay image and a great image? Yes. And so these 3 things, as a beginner, you must master. And as I go through them, I'm going to detail them as best as I can in under an hour, knowing that I will get you what you need to know to do it, but I always have fun explaining little nuances in there that can sometimes take longer. And if you want to see some of those nuanced discussions over on my YouTube channel, I have Milky Way Wednesday live streams from the past. I have videos that are dedicated to specific 2-minute tips, and I have more coming all the time. And you can catch up on these 3 tips over there in multiple different presentations to really nail it home. Bring it home as to what I'm talking about. So I want to say hey to John from Conway, New Hampshire. Awesome. That's fantastic. We got people from all over, despite the fact that I told Facebook, let's target everybody right here in this area, make sure I get a good time zone, and I'm loving everyone from previous groups that are joining me tonight. So let's start off with the first tip. The first tip that you know if you know me involves this. This is my secret weapon. We'll talk about that in detail. Let's go over to my screen now. So looking at tip number 1, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and quickly duplicate this so I have multiples of the blue color. Let's keep all tips in the heavy blue. Let's go to a nice white. In fact, I want to do the brighter colors right there. Okay. Tip number 1, focus. This is a key that if you fail on this, you will obviously have something broken set up on your gear. When you look at your images, and let me navigate to my examples here. These are actually star tracking examples. I'm recognizing them as being the same. Here's my examples. When you nail your focus or go off your focus just a tiny amount, you can tell on the back of your screen. But sometimes you do it just enough that when you get home, you see this right here, and that looked okay on the back of your LCD screen. Back of your LCD screen, when you get so out of focus that you see this kind of a blur, you recognize it. When you fix that and bring it in to this focus range, very often, those who come with me on the workshops, those who've come out with me personally, we get here a lot and they don't quite recognize it. Let me do something down here that's going to help you see something a little bit like your LCD screen. If I magnify these thumbnails down below, you're going to notice something very quickly. Now, I haven't mentioned my Carson Lumi Loop. I'm going to first mention this tip, this element of recognition between what's going on with the stars. So I'm going to do 2 frames real quick. In fact, I'm going to draw a couple just so I have an extra one there. Looking at this compared to this, something is happening. Let's go towards focus. Here's a focus set of stars at the Milky Way here in 1 second. It's loading. Okay, here it is. That image, and pay attention to down here to this image, has a little bit of difference in focus. Full screen, you see it instantly. On the little screen, you don't see it as much. It's very easy to not see the difference, and yet there's one thing that's very clearly popping off that you can't, that will get you there on your focus. And it's right here. When you look at your screen and you see, let me just draw a bunch of dots. I'm getting a bunch of lines too, but that's okay because I'm drawing some things with bigger dots. Let me try a little more controlled movements and get some circular dots. What's happening between focus correct and focus a little off is this. You have, on focus correct, you have some stars, some planets that stand out. See those 3 stars right there? They're standing out compared to the other small ones. When you go and get into focus, let's make a nice big, let's go even bigger. Now my pen is fighting me on my big size. I want big, fat marks. Okay, let's make these really stand out. Nailed focus, out of focus, right? No, it's actually much different. Look at this focus right here and what's happening in reality. And I like to call this in my tip the sea of dots. When you have a sea of dots or a few, you can see the difference in your focus immediately. Go back to those images. Think about the sea of dots. Up here, everything looks like a similar star size. Even this one, you can see the difference. But down below is where it's going to get more obvious to you. Look at this LCD screen-like representation here. Small, little square. Here's this one, and there's this one. Can you notice the difference? Let me try my zoom here. I'm going to change the position of my zoom screen so that you can see what I'm referring to in large format. Let me go ahead. And when I do this zoom screen, it is a little bit cumbersome as you have to watch me go navigate around, but it all depends on what is in front of my screen and how big it shows up. So I am having to do this live, but now we're almost there. And with this giant cursor, it is so tough to get that, to navigate the pinpoint where I need to select the red anchor. It's so hard to hit it with the giant cursor. So now you're seeing this big. You're seeing very large on the screen all 4 of these images. 1, 2, 3, 4. In focus, a little bit out, a little bit more out, definitely out. So now what am I talking about with the sea of dots? In focus, you have a uniform bunch of sand, just sand everywhere. But when you get out of focus, those dots start popping off the screen. Check it out as it gets more out of focus. Look up here. In fact, I'm going to zoom in on this section of the screen so you can see it more just here up above where you guys are looking. You're going to see how progressively as it gets out of focus, those dots become more and more prominent, Very prominent. And what is it? The higher magnitude stars are popping off when they're out of focus. The lower magnitude stars are being relegated to the background. And when you look at your LCD screen and you see a sea of dots like this, you can know immediately, I'm out of focus. That is an out of focus image. And when you bring it back into focus and then you see this on the back of your LCD screen versus this with dots here, 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 all the way from corner to corner, side to side, it's not just some bright stars, it's a sea of them. Then you know I'm out of focus. So let me show you that without the zoom so you guys can see the full images again. Emphasize this image completely out of focus, the brighter magnitude stars start popping off. And what do you start to see? You start to see Sagittarius constellation. You see Scorpius constellation. These constellations that are created from the higher magnitude stars that pop up off the sky, they're starting to show up now. And planets like Jupiter here and Saturn over there, they're really popping off when they're out of focus. As you go towards focus, those higher magnitude stars start fading away and start going back in the background with the rest of the stars. And then at that point, can you pick out the Sagittarius constellation? Can you see Scorpius here? You know Antares is that star, but you can't see it anywhere near as clear as when you were out of focus. So you can look at your images and notice real quick, boom, I'm out of focus if I see a sea of dots across my image. This will be something that when you're out there at your camera, you'll recognize it and you'll see it. And maybe from here you get the idea and you won't completely understand it until you get to that point. So now let's go back and keep the chat up because I'm going to talk about some gear. This next element of getting your focus, if you haven't done this before, if you have your camera, if you have it with you even, take a look at it and see where do you have your magnifying glass. There's a digital magnifying glass. In fact, I am going to show you the back of my camera by doing it on this iPad. So I can show you what I'm referring to. In fact, trying to get a clean background. Let's do this on the corner. You'll see my Perrier, but that will be no problem. So now let's get it in focus. Plenty of light. And let's show you this screen. And Guppy Guy says, I can barely see bright stars on the LCD screen. I have to guess on framing. Any tips? Have used the loop. It works good. And that is absolutely right. Check out this. The back of your screen, you're looking at your camera. You need to know where your magnifying glass is because as you're in live view on the Canon 6D, that's what this camera is, you hit the start stop button back there and then it goes from viewfinder view to what's going on the back screen. You see all of your image here in live view. Then you navigate to the brightest star in the sky and you navigate to a planet or a star, something that's really bright, and bring it to the center of your lens. The center of your lens is critical, and I'll show you that. I'll show you why here in a second. Let me grab from my table over there my lens. This guy is my Rokinon lens. We are not going to talk about gear in this discussion. In fact, he said he had a T3i. That's an older camera. That's definitely a camera that has more challenges getting a Milky Way shot than a brand new camera, but you absolutely can do it. So looking at this lens, you see the front element, you see the bulbous point. You want to make sure that that star is right here at the center of your middle lens. So you get your camera pointed right towards that brightest star. And now with one hand on your LumiLoop and your other hand here on your focus ring, you're going to go into live view and get ready to see that dot, that white dot, as bright as possible. Let me emphasize that over here on my iPad. And I'll use my third frame that I have right here. So let's go ahead. Let's go over here. Yep. You bring, and you know, Guppy says, I have a hard time seeing stars on the back of my LCD screen. Absolutely true. What I recommend is a couple things, a few steps that you can do. You can check out my focus video on YouTube channel to know more, but I recommend these steps real quick for making sure you nail your focus. First, settings at max. And I mean that as ISO all the way up. Your aperture you're set as wide as possible. And by that I mean checking this out. Right here, looking at this lens, you can see the back of the aperture. When I change my aperture down to f22, there's a big difference in light being cut off. So you're going to go wide open. Now, we're going to talk about your settings and what aperture you should be at. But wide open will be our default. We'll talk about this from wide open for the most part. Each lens will have a different trait. In fact, this one, this Rokinon, I always go one stop down just to fix chromatic aberration and coma, mostly coma. So when you do this and you've decided, okay, I'm wide as I'm going to be, my aperture is at widest, just lost my pencil. Get Nikon. We don't need anything from you, Stanley Harper. Stanley Harper's a friend of mine. We were just hanging out at the Bristlecone Pines and over at Mobius Arch in Alabama Hills. So your aperture open, wide open. Then what else are you going to do? Your shutter, make sure your shutter's at max, which every camera I've seen, they basically default at 30 seconds. Unless you've got an intervalometer going to bulb mode, 30 seconds is the max. So now that you do that, the back of your camera is going to show a simulation, exposure simulation, and give you probably the best view of the stars that it does see. Now, Guppy says he sometimes doesn't see it. There's a chance. Well, first off, let's go brightest stars. I typically will choose a planet. Any planet that is available, I will go right there for the planet and get that in the center of my lens. And I'll just emphasize that. Center of lens. So here we are. In the center of our lens, we have Jupiter. And over here with Jupiter in the center, we're getting very little distortion from the edges of the lens. We're also making sure that we have our settings on the back of our LCD screen at the brightest it can be. Turn your brightness up. Don't worry about your eyesight. Even at the lowest, brightest setting, you're going to ruin your eyesight by looking at the LCD screen. The only way you can keep your eyesight from changing is if you only look at red objects, red light. Just don't worry about your eyesight. You're taking a picture. You're not doing telescope work. So when you're taking a picture, don't worry about your eyes being changed in the light. Turn your brightness up all the way in your LCD screen and look for those dots. Find that planet, navigate towards it, turn your shutter all the way up, turn your aperture all the way open, and make your ISO as high as it's going to be, and then look at that. And I want to emphasize that make sure your aperture is the setting it's going to be for your Milky Way shot. Don't change your aperture after focus. You'll have focus breathing. So you get settings at max, brightest stars on planet, put at the center of lens, and now when you're looking and you can't see anything, double check, Guppy, that you rotate. You rotate your lens, your focus, so that you can see, hey, I'm way out of focus. Maybe that dot has become blurred out of existence. I will sometimes think that we got everything working. We can't see anything on the back of their camera. And I'll reach up and grab the focus ring and just rock it all the way to the other side and see what happens. Oh, okay, we were completely out of focus. Now we can see those dots because we went all the way over to infinity. And Gerald recommends that I make sure I emphasize, what am I meaning by aperture open? And when you think about your f-stops, you're going to be, for this lens, it's f1.4. If you go to a bigger number like f8 or 22, you're actually going to a smaller hole. Oh, sorry, Siri, I don't want anything. So you're going to a smaller hole. Your aperture gets smaller the larger the number it is. So when I say go large, I'm saying make sure you're at f1, 2, 3, whatever your lens will allow you to do. This one goes f1.4, that camera lens goes to 2.8. And so go as wide as you can. All right, thanks for emphasizing that, Gerald. Awesome. So now let's zoom out and see our star. Our star's in the back of our LCD screen. We have that dot, and now we've got our Carson Lumi loop out, and we're going to watch it. And let me tell you guys, you're going to find out that you're going to spend some time with a blob, not a perfect shape, a blob. And that blob will be bigger and that blob will go smaller. So you're going to change the shape of your lens until you go out from big, back to small. And that final orb shape will seemingly stay about, this big across. You'll see that size on a little bit of turn here and a little bit of turn there, and it kind of doesn't seem to change. When you get into that range, you know you got it. You're as close as you're going to get. Call your focus and go. All right. That is focus. With the beginning and with this effort I spent on the sea of dots, I'm taking up too much time on focus, so let me know at the end if you have questions for focus there. Let's get into number 2. Number 2 is going to be exposure. Oh, wrong pencil for that. This exposure setting, how do you decide it? What are you going to consider to get a proper Milky Way exposure? First off, you know the triangle. Let's talk about it. We just mentioned aperture. You have your choice of shutter. And you have your choice of ISO. When it comes to your lens, whatever lens you have, you are going to choose your aperture just instantly. It doesn't matter the settings of the night. It doesn't matter where you go. It all depends on your lens. And so this lens, I told you, f1.4. I'm going to keep it capital F since I did that before. f1.4. On that Tamron 15-30, it goes as wide as f2.8. I told you that I actually stopped this down on my Rokinon. I stop it down to f2. Why? Because in the corner of my image, way up here, let's go to the in focus one, you can see on this Rokinon how there's a little bit of shape to the stars. You notice a bit of wing added to the end of the stars. And as I go towards the center, you can see how even with some of these in-focused ones, they're not perfect orbs. They're not perfect shapes. They're more often than not going to be this abstract shape. But it's definitely not getting the one-sided wing anymore. It looks like they're circles. But towards the edge, I get the wing off to the left. Towards the edge on the right, I get the wings going off to the right. And so that wing I'm talking about is basically this. Well, let's do a regular shape. So here's the dot, and it's getting a little bit of wings. When it's in the center of the frame, it circles. On the right side of the frame, the wings kind of stretch off to the right. And so you get these shapes on the edge because of coma, and each lens will have a different coma. You'll find out that it's terrible with one lens and fantastic with another. So you'll have to test it out. And when you're testing them out, you'll see, okay, if I stop this down to f2, since f1.4 is so large, f2 is still better than f2.8, I can still get away with f2, fix the coma a little bit, and that's my aperture. It's been decided. Ba-boom. You decided on your aperture. So now with the exposure triangle, you're no longer thinking beyond aperture. Now you're thinking, what's my shutter? What's my ISO? With shutter, the only thing you're considering is star trailing. Here's your star, and as you go from 0 seconds to 10 seconds, that star is also going to trail across the sky. Now, 10 seconds is not going to trail like that. What's going to happen at around 10 seconds is your star will look like this versus the first one. At 30 seconds, your star will look like this. So you can see how the difference in the star trailing can be minimal depending on how wide a focal length you are using and how much zooming in you're doing on your shot. So this is something you need to choose. But let me show you a shutter real fast. If you have the PhotoPills app down here, you click on that and you go to Spot Stars. Spot Stars pill, you choose your camera. For instance, my camera right here is the Canon EOS 5D Mark IV. I'm using an f24. I'm using a millimeter. That's 24 millimeter on this Rokinon. I have an aperture of f2.8. No, I'm actually going to stop it down. It's 1.4, but I'm going to stop it down to f2. And then from that point, using accurate, we're going to go with the NPF rule. You don't have to understand what that means. Just know that if you have photo pills, put in your camera, put in your lens focal length and your aperture, and it'll tell you something extreme like 4.57 seconds. After that, you will get trailing. Just know that you can pretty much take what the NPF rule is and you can add 4 seconds. You can comfortably do that without having noticeable trails, because unless you're crazy anal, crazy picky, you're not going to see those trails. So you're going to go the NPF rule plus 4 seconds, and you're going to be set. Now, you're going to play around with it. On this lens, I go to 13 seconds. On this lens, I go to 8. And so you'll play around with your lenses, but you're going to figure out that shutter. And that shutter is decided by the lens. And so just like the aperture, that's it. Your exposure triangle is entirely dedicated to 2 settings just by virtue of pulling out which lens you're going to use. You decide those things in advance, and it doesn't matter if you're going to Crater Lake, Oregon Coast, Southern Utah, Faroe Islands. It doesn't matter. You're going to experience these same settings every single time. So now, how do you do your final decision with ISO? And that final decision has been dictated by your histogram. And that's what I'm going to spend a little bit of time on right now. And looking at the time, we're at 6:32. The chats that have come in, we've been able to answer those questions. We don't have a big Q&A, and so I think we're going to be able to borrow some time from the Q&A potential. So keep hitting me up with questions over here, and I will answer them as we go along. But I want to let you know that at the end of this video, I want to give people who are complete beginners, and anybody like Stanley, you can do this if you wanted to, man. Anybody, I'm going to give a deal on what I'm calling the Milky Way Photography Primer Package. This is going to be a special deal that only happens with those of you here in the video right now. I'm going to give you a link during this live feed, send you the link, let you see it. I'm going to talk about some options that are going to give you benefits that I'll explain here at the end. So let's go back to my screen, and we're going to go over to, you know what, let's do our ISO pictures. So I have a set of images, and I'm in quick collection right now. Let me go over to my ISO Milky Way. Oh, I'm finding it difficult to notice. Where did I put it? Where did I put them? Milky Way, Milky Way. Well, these images right here are similar to them. So let's just go ahead and go back before Comet Neowise, get onto this, go to the full all photographs, and see if I can find them right there. And there they are. Okay, so this one has had some edits done to it. Let's go ahead and revert it back to normal. Get it back to import. So now all of these are raw images down below. And up here underneath me is a histogram. So I'm going to turn on the zoom screen, and we're going to fix this histogram, or fix this zoom screen to focus right there on the section of the screen where the histogram is. And getting rid of everything else that's distracting. Pulling up. All right. Getting rid of the rest of that. And navigating up. Histogram, I'm going to make this nice and big too, because I want you to see the numbers underneath the histogram that says, oh, okay, this was ISO 3200. And I'm going to move this over here in this corner. Well, no, I better put it in the top left corner. Let's do that. And let's shrink it down a little bit more. Come on. A little bit more, and get it off of my image right here, because I can't make it from not being centered. It's centered here no matter what I do. Awesome. So now my histogram plus the image. The histogram on the back of your screen is what you're going to use to choose your ISO. So when I say histogram, what's the correct histogram? And this is the correct histogram. Let's go ahead and get another color. I'm going to pull up a yellow. And let me explain the histogram. If you're not familiar with your histogram, just know that as you're looking at it, you're basically handling stuff that are blacks, over this way. And then this section right here are mid-tone. Well, let's simplify it. Let's completely oversimplify it. You can think of everything here over as your blacks. And that C became a circle because of the pen I'm using. And then everything between here and here, that are your midtones. And then over here are your whites. So if we just completely oversimplify it and break it down into 3 sections, you have your whites, your midtones, and your blacks. When you're looking at this histogram, you have a spike here, which is your black, your very black foreground. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and allow me to write that C. Your black foreground. That black foreground is going to spike depending on how much you have in your scene. If you're at a water that's reflecting the sky and everything's more midtones, you won't see that big spike. But you will see at least a section in black over here. And then, oh, you're right. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you. You're not seeing me right up here because of the zoom that I left on. Thanks for warning me there, Cheryl. So as you're looking down here at this space, you want to have the blacks and then the midtones, this section right here. These midtone colors, they are the Milky Way. All the stars in the sky, the Milky Way stars, the colors and shapes that are happening up there that are not just pure black, those are taking up the middle of the histogram. Those are your midtones that are happening right here. And so you want this separation between the blacks and those midtones. Let's look at what that means. And I'll turn on my zoom again. Seriously, thank you for warning me. It's too bad I was blocking up so much of that histogram for so long. But you're going to get it emphasized right here. Many people come to me and say, I don't like going too high on my ISO because I get noise. Please do not worry about that right now. You're a beginner. You can fix and mitigate noise in other ways in post. Your goal is to get a proper exposure of the Milky Way. That's all you're really focused on. That's all you should really worry about. When you look at 1600 ISO, check out what's happening with your histogram. Everything is black. It's completely crunched over to the left. So let's go up from 1600 and let's go to 3200. 3200 ISO, we're starting to creep towards the middle, and now you're seeing a little bit of separation between the black and the hump that is the midtones. Go up to 5000. Now we're talking. We've actually got a separation that's significant between the blacks on the left, and then the hump is coming up here towards the middle. Remember this histogram? It has a midpoint section in the histogram that we're trying to reach. Ignore the stars. It's okay. This hump is going to be multiple shapes. It could be short. It can be really high. It all kind of depends on what your foreground and the sky is looking like for you. Say you have some clouds. Stuff like that will change it just slightly. What the key element is separation and how close you get to this part right here in the middle. You want to bring it up to it, but don't cross over it too far. So let's look at this. At 5000, we are not quite in the middle. You can see it's back here from the middle. We want to bring that towards the middle more, and 5000 ISO didn't do it. Let's go up. 6400. That's a setting that I recommend everyone to start from. Just start at 6400 and see what your histogram looks like. And let me emphasize something here. That histogram, when you're looking in the back of your LCD screen and you've got a live view histogram going, I mean, if you know what I'm talking about, right here, check out the info. Oh, it's going to have a delay. So I think I hit enough times. Nope. And now another time, this should bring up my histogram. That live histogram is not what I'm referring to. At night, this live histogram will not exist. Maybe on your Nikon Stanley it does, but it doesn't on my Canon. I can't get this histogram to work whatsoever at night. It's not a live histogram that I'm trying to get. So now, let's make sure that this goes completely off. And one more. Okay. So now you don't have any distracting elements overlaying my face. My beautiful bearded face. Oh, it's 640. Whew, yes. Doing well on time. Doing well on time. Back to the screen. This histogram is made from what? After the image has been taken, you look at your image, you see the big full screen back here of your image. In fact, I better just go right back to me full screen here. On the full screen, if you see your image full screen, hit info. On the Canon, it works that way. I've seen it work on Sony. I've seen it do that on the Nikon, and so I'm pretty sure all your cameras will react the same way. Where you hit info after you have your image pulled up that you just look, it's an image review. Hit info again and again until you get the histogram showing up on the back. Once that histogram is showing up there on the back, that's what you're looking at on location to make sure your exposure is set well. And you know what? I have some things that I've never changed. You know, I keep 8,000 ISO, 8 seconds on this one. On that one, though, this lens that you guys are looking at me through, I change it a lot. It depends on the scene. It depends on where I am at. And Stanley Harper says 5 minutes at ISO 12,800. So when you look at this setting, at 6,400 ISO, we're getting really close to the middle. I could be satisfied with this, but I challenge you to try bringing it up. Don't think about the noise. Don't even think a little bit about it. Just go ahead and go further and make sure your histogram is really shining. Here, 8,000, 8 seconds. This is the histogram I get. It literally is just touching it. I have the separation up here. Let's do my cursor down here. I got my separation up there. I have the big spike of black. I have the sky. And there it is, the histogram. That's what you're going for. As I tweak up my histogram and take another shot, tweak up my histogram, take another shot, I got my focus. I've decided on my shutter. My aperture is open as wide as I want to go. In this case, stop down to f2. And now I just change my ISO. And I just keep rocking out another picture after other picture, seeing what happens in the histogram. And I want to emphasize that you want to look at the core. At the core. So let me go ahead and back out of this and go to exposure, histogram, and put on a big emphasis, the core. This histogram is based on the galactic core. What happens when it's not the galactic core? Well, let's go back to my quick collection, and you're going to see one of my favorite images from 2018 as I go back. Apparently, there's a few more images in... Oh, that's not 2018. I know for sure. All right, where are you, my friend? This one. Faroe Islands. Love Faroe Islands. So here I am out at the salt flats, and let's go to those images. I want to use these as an example just because you have a very clean foreground. There's nothing else going on, and so we're going to look at these in my earlier test images before I processed them. Okay, here we go. Here's 8 seconds, ISO 8000, right there. What happened? Look at my histogram. Okay. Aaron said point at the core and make sure your histogram looks like this. That's completely not what I'm getting over here. All I've got is a giant hump. What happened? Well, look what happened. We have a sky on the left and a sky on the right. This is an image where you can see that the sky is being reflected in a beautiful lake that I'm standing on. 1 inch water. The video that you saw at the beginning had this scene. Crazy, amazing scene, but I'm going to have a different histogram now because I don't have a big black dark foreground plus a sky. I have 2 skies, which, as you can see, amounted to crazy big hump of histogram. So what are you looking for here? Aaron, you said a big black spike in separation. I don't even see the black spike at all. Okay, good. Black spike doesn't exist. Even this section of terrain is actually high enough in color and light that it's not counted as a black. It's more of a mid-tone right there. So this mid-tone, no real blacks, that means you're not going to have a black spike. So ignore it. Don't worry about it. What's the other element, the other key of your histogram? The center. Exposing it up to that center. And right here you can see that I still reach the center despite the fact that I have no black hump and I only have one big giant hump. So make sure, no matter what the shape of this is, no matter how it looks, that you get to the center. Well, what if I wasn't using the core? What happens if I look at, say, the other end of my panorama? like right here. Well, my histogram looks like this and doesn't reach the center, so up the exposure. No. Don't set your exposure based on the lesser part of the Milky Way. I'm going to go from the left to the right. Over on the far left Milky Way, you saw that far left side of it, the lesser band. And as I keep clicking on new images, the histogram is updating based on what is in the frame. And the more I get towards the middle, the more midtones I get. You can see the crazy light pollution that was happening out there. You can see how that's at the center of my arch. And as more and more Milky Way core show up, I get brighter midtones and some that cross the middle. And as I get past that light pollution and I'm just looking at the core, my histogram is much more understandable. It's not bleeding over. I'm good. If you have light pollution like this that's near your core, you're going to have moments that bleed over like that. You're going to have some specific colors bleed beyond the middle. Well, don't worry. Know that the light pollution is causing the problem most likely. The majority of your hump is there in front of the middle and just reaching it. Let's go back to the quick collection so you can see those images. Oh, it's going to go all the way back to the history of all images, Aaron. Sometimes I regret when I decide to use the quick collection. Let's go to our examples. Yeah. Where are you? Okay. Oh, why did you do that, Lightroom? Okay, stay up. Now you're all over the place again, aren't you? I'm over at a completely different section now. Let's get this back. Okay. Sorry about that. And before Comet Neowise, there you are. Okay, stay here. We're going all. I like that you can see my cursor, but I hate how hard it is to use it. My gads. So, I was showing you 8000 ISO. Here's my histogram for 8000 ISO. What if I go beyond it? I bring it up a little higher. This is at 10,000, and it's got this crazy hump. What a crazy hump. This is definitely reaching past. If you caught it in the last little bit, I was saying the majority of the hump was in front of the middle with just reaching the middle a little bit with the highest, brightest sections. This is an example of not the whole majority of the hump is before the middle. You've got part of the big section of the hump reaching beyond the middle. That's going to be too much. You don't need to do it. Is this one 12,800? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? This even had some edits on it. Let's just go back to default. All right. 8,000. Creeping towards it with 10,000, then 12,800. It won't be as extreme as a hump as I was showing you, just because that turned out to have a little bit of edit done from a previous lesson. But you can see how if that big part of the hump was beyond it, you've done way too much. You don't want to do that. You just want it to start kissing it. And so if you have light pollution causing an edge that's getting beyond it, it's okay. Pay attention to the majority of the hump. Pay attention to this section right here being in front of the midpoint and touching it with the separation of the blacks. That really, this separation of the blacks isn't even necessary to know because you're trying to reach this to the midpoint. If you go back to this image and you see my low exposure one, that histogram is smashed on the far left and you don't have a separation of the blacks. But if you bring this side up to the middle, you automatically get that separation of the blacks. And so it's almost like it happens by virtue of at least remembering to bring your histogram up towards the middle. Okay? Histogram, making sure your exposure is solid. Let's turn off that. Your exposure, all based on the histogram of the Milky Way core, and you want it towards the middle. You want it touching the middle, but not too far back. Not too far. Okay, those two things, focus, exposure, they are going to make the biggest difference in your shot. If you nail your focus and you nail that shot of exposure, you're going to get enough exposure on the Milky Way that your post-processing is going to be easy. If you get your focus right, your friends won't look at that image and go, yeah, that's all right. They're going to see, wow, it's amazing. They'll see the polish of a perfectly focused image and be stoked for you as much as you are stoked about your image. So you nailed the focus, you nailed the exposure. What's the third key? Let's end it here on the third key. And then I'll give you guys information. I want you guys to come out with me on some workshops, and I want you to come join me so I can teach you in person, or you can teach for yourself, or you can teach with me. You have multiple options to learn more Milky Way photography, and I want to tell you about it here right after the third step. The third one, get me some white. And yeah, that's good. 3, the key element that completely finishes off all beginner knowledge, the thing that's going to separate you from the noobs, is this right here. And it's not technical, it's artistic. And it can be the hardest one to think about. Composition. This is a challenge in all of your photography, most likely, and you battle with it all the time. So I'm going to give you guys a shortcut. In fact, the email that you guys have signed in with to see this webinar, I'm going to email you that email a tip sheet that looks like, oh, the tip sheet got moved. Oh no. The tip sheet. Mary Beth just joined us, and we were just talking about this last weekend. And so, Mary Beth, you're never getting away from hearing me talk about composition. Oh, blast. Okay, it all got deleted. But there's 5 tips. Oh, that's dizzying. Sorry. There are 5 tips of composition that we are going to talk about. Is it up in here? No, darn it. Okay. So, to get back in the camera chat so you guys can see this and not get so dizzy, I am going to pull up what probably got deleted when I was stuck with the tech issue. This document, this PDF that I'm going to send you, is a 1-sheet tip sheet that is going to show you all my 5 favorite composition tips that will make it easy for you to think, okay, I'm out there, I'm at the Milky Way, I want to nail this, what can I do? And these 5, oh, cursor problem again. Come on, hit the right folder. Ba-boom. I did it. I finally hit the right folder. Okay, so now I'm going to show you guys this tip sheet that you're going to be getting. This right here, this tip sheet is going to be available through the email. If you don't have it already, you will enjoy learning these different tips. In fact, let me, come on. Oh, you're not going to let me max? Why can't I max? Oh, I can't get out of this. Jeez. Okay. Let's go ahead and open it. Just open with preview so that I have something that I can work with. Because I want to be able to bounce back and forth between it and my iPad. In fact, I'll even move it over here towards the iPad so we can share the screen and you can see everything, the examples of it in action, as well as the composition as we end this live stream hangout together. And you guys can get back to some dinner or hang out with your family and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. So here we go. The very, very, very first thing that I recommend over here is to break the planes. Break the planes. What does that mean? When we're talking about, in fact, I hate having it that small. I'm going to go back and forth this way. Okay. Aaron's picky. I want to be perfect. Breaking the planes. When you break out your composition in the rule of thirds, you put lines. Oh, I saw a little fadedness. I thought I had the zoom screen on still. Whew. I'm glad I don't. This line right here, the vertical lines for the thirds, and then you have the horizontal lines for the thirds. You're going to break either one. You're going to bring in a subject that's going to break through them and make things better. And let me emphasize that right here. Here's a shot, first year of Milky Way photography for me. I am plenty proud that I went out at night and I captured a Milky Way, right? As many of us have been. There's no light pollution ruining my core. My core is underexposed, but there. And I've got some mountains and some water, right? No, it's not enough. When you look at this image, you think there's just something missing. I need more. A simple foreground that is just, okay, I got the mountain lines. Okay, sweet. Well, if I break it down in thirds, pretty much my bottom third is just this. There's nothing else breaking the plane, coming up into the other third, and getting more interesting. I have the Milky Way. I have this Milky Way right here that is awesome, coming through the image, but that's really all I have. I have nothing else going. And so I kept driving, and I found something that was perfect. A silo, an abandoned silo. Now, when I break up my thirds, ooh, that is terrible. Come on, work with me. Sometimes these are horrific as I try and draw the thirds real fast. Let's pretend that that was evenly spread out. When you're looking at your rule of thirds, you will put subjects on the third. Come on, bring back my color. You've got your Milky Way here going through the image. And we have other subjects that are taking up space. Well, I shouldn't draw it that far because it came over there. That space, that strength of an object right here, it crosses that plane in the third, but it also goes up and beyond. So I get on both sides of this third, and I'm going up. Imagine if it was even taller and it came up into the top third. That would have an interesting shape that then shares and balances out with all of this cool Milky Way that's going along the side. So the first tip is to break the planes. Get a foreground subject that's going to overlap one of the thirds and take up some good space. And I mentioned balancing the negative and positive. Let's just quickly show that by going over to this image right here. Oh, there it is. This guy, you can see all the black below. Where I decided to crop my image after the panorama was all in consideration of what the negative and positive space that was happening here, and how this space right here was positive. I needed some negative to balance it out with it, and so having a little bit of extra makes it all better. So now, balance negative and positive. Let's do weight on the left. Weight on the left is this. We have a Milky Way core. In fact, already in the silo, you can see the same thing. The Milky Way core in the northern hemisphere. Sorry, Melbourne. Who was it? Praveen. Praveen was out in Melbourne, Australia, and he doesn't see the Milky Way like this. He doesn't get stuck like we do in the northern hemisphere, where we have it on the right of everything, and it just kind of goes up like that. That's the Milky Way for our whole season. It never does this. A really awesome full arch that comes down on the horizon. We don't get that glory he does out in Melbourne, Australia. So for us at the north, we have to consider that we've got this little fan shape that's happening, and the weight is always empty on the left, where the Milky Way core is taking up space on the right of your frame. So you want to put some weight of a foreground on the left to make up for that, to balance it out, and to really be strong. Here in Goblin Valley, this image right here has the heaviest, weightiest rocks on the left compared to those that are framing the Milky Way over here. Being taller, they break the plane. Going through this left side and filling up that space that's empty over where the core and the sky is just kind of the same, we get some interest as well as some, lining up with the rocks. It's fantastic to put all your weight on the left when it comes down to it. So then let's quickly look at the other option. Oh, it's not here. I'm using the wrong gesture. So then shape from top to bottom. Oh, yeah. I don't want to get out of here because the next tip is right perfect with the Goblin Valley. This shape goes all the way up and then comes down and goes to the bottom and then comes up again and then goes down all the way down here. Shape, an organic shape from top to bottom will cause interest. Look at this one. This Milky Way by the trestle, shape from top to bottom is so much stronger than, say, this one right here. This is the same trestle. You're looking at a shape that goes across the middle. It doesn't break the plane. It goes from right to left, okay, but then there's nothing over here that helps out with the weight of the core. There's just nothing going on. So using wide angle lens, going in and doing a panorama right underneath that trestle, I was able to get this shot. Now I'm framing the Milky Way core inside here, as well as having a subject that's going from the top and all the way down to the bottom. Leading lines is roughly what this is, but in the Milky Way, you tend to have more sky than you do of a foreground, so you don't often have those leading lines leading up to the Milky Way core unless you want to cut off and crop more of the Milky Way. So you'll end up with lines that are leading around the frame, all up in the sky, up high in the sky. Another good example of a shape from top to bottom is this one, and we'll talk about this one and show some steps in this progress. Top to bottom, no. This is all kind of in this half frame. Well, what if I wait for the Milky Way to go later in the night? It gets higher up later in the night. It gets even higher up, and now it's taking up better space up here, but this is still kind of boring. The Owachomo Bridge here is still kind of boring, and that's where this next one comes in, framing the core. Framing the core is an easy, quick composition tip to make an amazing shot. You see framing the core right here with the railroad, and you see it right here with Owachomo Bridge. Just like with the train trestle, I went down underneath and looked up. And looking up and bringing this intersecting X of rock and core and Milky Way band, so much more interesting doing this than the latter. I also have a shape from top to bottom. I'm also framing the Milky Way core. The weight on the left, that's different. This one's definitely more weight on the right, but that doesn't matter. All of these composition tips don't need to be tackled at the exact same time. For the most part, they're not going to be. You just need to get one of them, like in this case, breaking the planes and I guess weight on the left. That made this image stronger. And so when you're thinking about your compositions and you're thinking, okay, I want to get out there, I'm going to do a panorama, I'm out of this location. When I took this shot, I didn't know exactly how the shape of this would look. I knew it would get distorted like the train track did, but I didn't know exactly how it would turn out. I just knew I wanted to stand right here, do a pano from right of the core all the way to the left. And once I captured this panorama and brought it all together, there were elements in this image that just coincidentally turned out awesome. And with that, I want to emphasize, as you are all out there mastering your focus, getting that exposure perfect, and then composition, doing those things will give you great images. When you think about this image that I was just sharing with you, in fact, I'm going to go bigger screen. There's this image. This is an okay version of that method. Here's my Owachomo Bridge. Here's that image that I'm talking about. And if I continue, here's a cool panorama that I showed you over at Dance Hall Rock. One thing I want to emphasize is that every single one of these images were created with these basic, simple steps. My focus was right. My exposure was right. This isn't created because of hours of post-processing. In fact, this image right here is a single image, nothing else done except Lightroom edit. This image right here and this image right here involved 2 steps. So the work that I did on this panorama with each frame and making those edits entirely in Lightroom is the same amount of work that I did for these frames that made up the sky and made up the foreground, entirely done in Lightroom. The only reason why this image or this image required Photoshop was because I combined a pano up here with a pano down here. And I show this image to show the extreme obvious connection here. You can see how, oh yeah, you can see how dark it is there and they came together, and that's where the seam is. You don't see the seam as much in this image. And so with the stuff that I'm talking about today, you guys could come out with me to this location and do it immediately. You would capture, you get your focus right, your exposure right, and then with post-processing only in Lightroom, we could get this image out, and then we just need to connect the top with the bottom in Photoshop. There is not extra steps of stacking done in any of these images. There was no stacking. There were no, I'm going to go ahead and compose a Milky Way over here and combine it with the foreground over there. No artistic composition cheating that I call cheating. there was nothing special about Blue Hour versus now. It's just all in the same moment where I captured 1 at 8 seconds. I'll just show you over here on my iPad. In fact, on my iPad, you can see this image over here where you've got the foreground and, oh, out of Moab. That's my out of Moab notes. There you go. I missed. Here's my sky exposure at 8 seconds and my foreground exposure at 1 minute each. I didn't change my ISO. I edited them both in Lightroom. I just connected the image right here in Photoshop, and that was it. The basics that you guys know already, you can do and use to make these images. There's nothing too challenging about them. You guys can master the basics of Milky Way photography and come home with really cool images. You don't have to compromise cool images for basics. You can actually get cool images with the basics. And that's what I like to emphasize, that all of you are realistically only a couple more steps away from getting a ton of images yourself. I was talking with a friend, Alan, just today in the email when he said he couldn't come to today's live stream. He was also mentioning that what he has found, and it's the same thing that I have found. You will get more out of your location than anything else in your work. If you have a great location with foreground and a clear sky and it's dark, all you have to do is get your exposure right and your Milky Way will shine in post-processing. Your post-processing is easy because of getting the location right and your exposure right. So on that note, I want to give you guys a special deal. Today with everybody who's here, I want to emphasize something. Oh, you know what? I think oh yeah, it is over here. I can still go over to this screen and show you everything. So, this is going to emphasize something that's available all the time and a special deal that's only for you guys. And I'm glad that I have some friends here who might want to take advantage of this because this is going to be a good discount. Right here is the typical offerings that I have. A Milky Way course, the Star Tracker course I did with Eric Benedetti, and the Milky Way Photographers Guild. These things, my Milky Way course, right now it's on discount for $30 for the first 200 students. There's only 81 left before the $30 goes back to $97. So if you want to learn on your own, go ahead, grab my Milky Way photography course. If you're interested at all in Eric Benedetti's course, I have a discount that's connected with the $30 discount. So basically, you can get the $30 Milky Way course and then get Eric Benedetti's course for only $50. That way, for $80, you can get both instead of paying $99 for Eric's. But if you just want Eric's and you don't want the Milky Way course and that wouldn't help you, you can always go here and check out the $99 option. I'm going to be giving you links here in a second that it'll be right in the chat. You can click on them and go to them. But also want to mention the Guild. Mary Beth, Stanley, Cheryl, and who else has been on? Jerry, all these guys, all of us are in the Guild. In the Milky Way Photographers Guild, it's a $5 a month, but you get a nice clean, in fact, let me show you what it looks like. You get a nice clean world of the Milky Way Photographers Guild. There's no ads. You don't have Facebook following you and telling you all your old friends and girlfriends, hey, do you know them? You went to work at this one place. Do you know him? And, here's Milky Way Mike sharing a cool shot. What's it got? North Bubble Milky Way over Jordan Pond, Acadia. That's awesome, Mike. So we've got some Milky Way photographers in here sharing their work, talking about their adventures, and asking for advice, working as peers together. Let me make it bigger so you can see their images nice. Seeing and sharing their work and talking about all sorts of topics of astrophotography. In fact, I think I'll go down enough that we'll see Sid's discussion about deep sky. Oh yeah, there it is. And so this is the Guild, it's $5. So for $5 a month, you can join us out there, and these things are always available to you, except for the price of the Milky Way course. It will go up, and the current discount that's attached to the course. You have to get the course as well to get the discount on Eric's thing, but they're available to you, and you can learn on your own right now a ton of Milky Way stuff. Here's the thing, and I'm just going to quote myself. I'm going to quote myself. Whether you are an absolute beginner in photography or a 20-year veteran, mastery of the essential techniques in Milky Way photography is only 1 day of learning and 2 nights of practice away. As I've done workshops, I've found this out. Seriously, if you and I were out right now at your tripod, I would tell you how to do 3 things. The 3 things I just told you: focus, exposure, composition. After that, you would practice it for 2 nights and you would master it. Would you have perfect images yet? In some cases, yes. In some cases, no, depending on conditions. But you would know everything you need to know. You don't have to go out for 2 years to finally get there. I could get you right there because the barrier of entry into Milky Way photography is one of the simplest and most satisfying of any type of photography. How many of you have been out there and have tried to capture that sunset just like Nick Page's sunset or someone else's amazing sunset, and you're like, oh no, this colors are fleeting. What's my settings? Bracketing, go. You got 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes at the most sometimes, and it's just this quick race, stressful situation. The Milky Way, if the clouds are not there, there's no rush. There's no rush at all. You look up in the sky and the Milky Way's there for hours. And if you mess up your first 300 attempts, you have 200 more attempts that you can make work that night. Milky Way is so accommodating. I love it. You just got to travel for a clear sky with the clouds, getting away from the clouds. You got to wait for the moon to be out of the way. And you have to go away from light pollution, which over here in Utah is a lot easier. So I want to show you this. Right now, I have workshops that are coming up in Grand Canyon North Rim. We're going to do 2 nights out there for only $500. And all of these 2-night workshops are only $500. But for all of you, you have to email me. So just go to aaron@photogadventures.com and you can email me and say, hey, I want to go to your Grand Canyon one. And I will give you a discount today and it only costs you $400. So I'll knock off $100 off the $500 cheap price. This is COVID refund ready if, for instance, you decide to join me out in Oregon in October. Here's Oregon. We're going 4 nights in Oregon. You can go for only 2 of them at Brookings and Bandon, or you can go to Pacific City and Cannon Beach. You can choose all 4 or go to one or the other. You know, your call. And they're only $500. So if you want to join me in Oregon, but between now and October 14th, something happens, and by September 14th, you decide, oh man, COVID or this or that, I can't go, 100% refund. So it's nothing that you have to take a risk for. So just email me. Say, hey, Aaron, I want to check these out. In fact, I promise you some links. Let me just go ahead and type them in right now. In fact, I will just toss it in, copy and paste. So here are my workshops. Here are the workshop offerings. You can always find them at workshops.photogadventures.com. Then you can join us at the Guild. It's another inexpensive way to learn your Milky Way photography. Join us at the Guild. It's a monthly thing, and so you can keep coming back. If you want to learn a ton of Milky Way stuff. In fact, I feel like my course is a little too comprehensive. It's intimidating, and I'm going to simplify it. But here's my $30 discount version for my course, as well as you can go straight to Eric Benedetti's course and do star tracking, and here's the link for that. Hey, someone in the chat confirm for me that you are getting those links and that there's not some sort of weird YouTube blocking, because YouTube blocks you from sharing links. It shouldn't block me from sharing links, so hopefully that's going through and you guys can find them. Here's the last thing, and the last thing about this is I got you here. You found me. Some of you never even heard of me probably. I just thankfully through Facebook, I posted this and I got some people to show up within a day. I'm going to do this again and again and again throughout the month of September. I want to get as many people possible joining me learning Milky Way photography. Well, how do you do it? How can I make sure that you have all the courses that you need, all of the hands-on attention that you could benefit from, and maybe even monthly live streams, hanging out with me and Cheryl and Mary Beth and Stanley and doing our live streams? John Henry Maurice, I haven't mentioned him. John Henry Maurice is in the Guild with us. You can hang out with us every month and practice your Milky Way photography. So I want to offer something that is going to be a good deal. Cool. Gerald confirmed that you guys can see him. Awesome. So here's my mastery. Here's my Milky Way photography primer package. And you know what? I'm going to go over to Photoshop because this is an easier way to do it without being distracted. I pulled in all of these elements as layers so that you don't get distracted. So here's what you get. If you come in and join me on the Milky Way Photographers Primer, which the link I'll give you here in a sec, you're going to get my entire Milky Way course. And I say $97 value. The next 81 people get it for $30. So it's only $30 right now. Then I'm also going to throw in my Photo Pills course. This is a $37 by itself value, but over on the Milky Way course, you can get it for $10 added on top of your $30. This Milky Way course, or Star Tracker Milky Way course from Eric Benedetti, is $99 by itself, but if you buy the Milky Way course, you can also get it for $50. I also am going to add in 2 one-on-one Zoom Skype calls. I've had one with John Henry Maurice recently, actually. And this is something that I want to do where you get one-on-one with me in Skype, in Zoom, where you're going to post-process a picture, and I'm going to guide you through it. I say an hour-long hangout, but let's be honest, I've gone an hour and a half every time I've done this, and it doesn't come out of your guys' cost. It's just an hour long. And so you get 2 of these, which would basically be 3 hours of hanging out with me, one-on-one, where we can look at your screen, see your edits, and help you through the speed bumps that you run into all the time. Then there's the 1-year access to the Milky Way Photographers Guild. If you wanted to stay for a whole year, that's $60 for a whole year. I'm going to throw that in there with this. So what's happening here is that we start in September through next September. You're going to have the remaining months of this season, all of the Deep Sky Star Tracker winter season that we're going to be talking about, all of those lessons, plus getting into 2021 with a huge head start, being a part of the guild, getting all of the live streams that I do, Milky Way Roundtable and such. You can check it out, all the things that are being involved with that, and you can join me there. Now, here's the key. This is going to also include a workshop. All the courses right here that are getting updated all the time and the new content gets added in, it's still yours. The 2 Zoom calls and the Milky Way Photographers Guild and a workshop. I'll mention these details here in a second, but I want to get to this detail. So this would be $3,163 if you add it all up. But for $2,000, I want to give you all of this. And what I'm going to do is I can only do this for 10 people, just because it's basically the cost of a workshop and you're getting everything else. People like Cheryl have come to a workshop and have purchased the courses separately, and so she spent more money than this to hang out with me, and I thank you, Cheryl. But for those of you brand new to Milky Way photography, I feel like if I create this primer package, I can give you a head start. From starting now, you and I are working together to get your Milky Way photography up. We are going to include all the course content, access to the guild, your 2 Zoom calls, plus a workshop. Now, here's the key. It's $2,000, so you can go to one $2,000 plus workshop, which would mean mine and Mary Beth's Aurora workshop. Or it could be coming out to Faroe Islands. It's not really a Milky Way. It's kind of an Aurora landscape workshop, but that's an over $2,000 workshop. My 2022 New Zealand workshop you can come to. My 2022 Atacama Desert workshop you can come to. Those are the $2,000 plus workshops. So for $2,000, you're going to get a $2,750 workshop. So you're already getting a $750 discount on top of getting all the course content and everything. Just all of my existing content that I can give you that isn't on my free stuff on YouTube, I'm going to give you access to and work with you personally to make sure you understand it and make sure that you get good at Milky Way photography, and that you're not only going to do it on your own, you're not only going to do it with me monthly in live streams, but you're going to do it personally at your tripod with me. You can do one $2,000 workshop, or you can do 2 of the $1,000 workshops. I have a $1,100 Oregon Crater Lake workshop and Oregon Coast. I have a $1,100 workshop that's Southern Utah. And so this is going to be 2 of those. And you've already discounted it down from 1,100, 1,300, 1,200 down to 1,000 flat. Or You've got all those workshops that I was showing you, those $500 2-night ones. You can do 4 of those. So it's basically a $2,750 value of getting one $2,000 workshop or 2 $1,000 workshops or 4 2-night ones. It really comes down to what kind of time do you have that you can set aside to come to Utah, or come with me to Oregon, come with me to Atacama Desert, come with me to Faroe Islands, come with me to New Zealand, come with me to the Upper Peninsula in Michigan. And so Cheryl says, and I paid for Eric Benedetti's video with you, which, by the way, is worth the entire price. In fact, I'm going to emphasize that. Thanks for the testimonial, Cheryl. So all of these things are $2,000. I'm going to just throw in everything just for one quick, easy price, and you're going to get a workshop. I want to emphasize that you're going to get a workshop, and so you don't have to pay extra for the workshop when it comes. This isn't a deposit for the workshop. You and I are just squared on the workshop. You just pick the workshop or workshops of your choice that you can make happen over the next year, 2, 3. I mentioned that this year would focus on you because of the guild, but you can do your workshop in 2 years. You can do your workshop in 3 years. You can do one of your workshops next year and another workshop the year after that. You and I are going to work together. I want to have this Milky Way photography primer be worth it. And so here's the link. Like I said, this isn't a timer thing. This isn't a only at the end of the webinar situation. This is you can get this as long as you're one of the first 10. So just go over to this link. You'll see this information. If you want to find, if you're thinking, I just kind of want to buy the course for $30, that's all I can go in right now, then go to the link that I sent, and you can go right here and learn more and go to the Milky Way course. Or you can see Eric Benedetti's course, or you can find out more about the guild. All those links are active, and you can go there. Or you can join me for the primer and take advantage of that, and that is $2,000. So now that I have 20 still here hanging out with me, what questions do you have before I hang up? Before this webinar is over, because of the delay, the tech delay, I would say that things went longer and shorter depending on the part of the lesson that I was in. And so I'm going to be doing this over and over again in September. If you guys want, I can email you and say, hey, I'm doing it again. If you want to watch the video again, I'll have different visual aids and different stuff in each one. So it'll at least be fun to learn again and emphasize. But my time is yours. It's 7:22. Let's go ahead and go until 7:30. If I don't have any questions by 7:30, I'll just hang up and let you guys go. But of those of you here, what can I answer? What kind of question? What lesson did I go over today that I can re-emphasize or answer any questions and challenges that you run into? Anything that's come up? So with this $2,000, let me just take off the screen here. You can see me in large. With this $2,000, interesting. So I was just looking at the link that I shared, making sure that they're working and making sure that they're all in working order. I'm going to test this. You never said who Eric is. You're right. I never did say who Eric Benedetti is. Eric Benedetti is an awesome photographer who has taught me and pretty much everyone else I know. I'm seeing a weird issue with the link on that one 2000. So let me know if you're trying to get the 2000 link, and I'll fix it as we're talking. But Eric Benedetti, he is this guy right here. Eric Benedetti, really great photographer. He's a really intelligent, analytical, technically minded engineer. I think, what is he? Is he a bioengineer? He's a he works with biology, but I don't know if he was an analytical chemist like Kirk, or if he was something else to do with the biology. But he's a brilliant guy who has amazing photography. I mean, look at this image right here. If you go to utahastrophotography.com, you can see his and Bryony's work. And I love this one picture from Eric over Factory Butte. And so I've got to share it again because it just gets my heart pumping. I love the clarity of the core. I love the detail. and just the size of Factory Butte, it actually gets dwarfed by the detail of the core right here. And this is difficult, more advanced star tracking Milky Way photography. Another person who's in the chat with us right now is Mary Beth. She's a fantastic star tracking photographer. The photos were not stacked. My images, none of them were stacked. Not a single one. I have some stacked image examples that I've done for a test, but none of those portfolio images that I've shared are stacked. Not stacked, not stacked, not stacked. Same image again and again. This one's not stacked. I did do a stack that night, and I could create a stack. In fact, one of my Milky Way Wednesdays for the Guild, we did a stack of this image, and the final image had some changes to it with the color going away. Some of the air glow faded away in the distance, and there's things I like and dislike about it, but no, I didn't stack. Eric Benedetti may have stacked on top of tracked with this. Mary Beth tends to do stacking and tracking, especially with the foreground, they'll stack. Maybe not. Maybe they just do a single image, because Mary Beth was just talking about one where she just did one single long foreground over there in Zion. So 15 exposures went into this image, 9 for the sky and 6 for the foreground, all taken with those. I think it was more of a pano because of the focal length. The focal length was a 85 millimeter. So the 9 for the sky was a panorama of the sky, all tracked, brought together, which creates the detail that we're getting here. And you can tell it's a panorama with just a slight stitch artifacting that's happening right there. So you can see that definitely was a panorama going boom, 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 boom. And then 9, like a Brady Bunch pano, basically. You can look at it. I'm back, John Henry says. Hey, you're back. You missed the entire presentation if that's the first time you made it back. Gerald says, why do you think you don't need to stack? Oh, you do need to stack. You can definitely benefit from stacking. Here is my principle on that, Gerald. Oh, you're welcome, David. I'm glad that you can be a part of this. Let me know if you have any questions. Email me anytime. Feel free to ask questions about anything. I got lots of stuff out there on the YouTube channel, so enjoy. To answer Gerald more, in this situation, if I wasn't going to print this image and I'm just enjoying it on my computer, if I'm doing it, and I print it not too big on my wall, or if I print it, or if I put it on my iPad and take it with me somewhere, I don't need to stack. It doesn't necessarily require it, but stacking, as Stanley and I did a lot of over at Mobius Arch, it can be really beneficial to clean up any little noise in the foreground. It's almost more beneficial to clean up the noise in your foreground elements than it is to clean up your sky. But there is where I will use it. If I'm going to print big, I will stack. And if I want to make sure that if I'm particular about noise, which I personally am not, if I want to get rid of that noise, I stack. When you stack, it looks different. It definitely has a benefit. And you can find some YouTube videos where I talk about that on a Milky Way Wednesday. So Guppy says, 1 shot of sky and 1 of foreground. So in Eric's shot, he got 9 images of the sky, he says. And go back so it doesn't have this. And he took 6 in order to get the foreground because of the nature of the lens being so tight. When you look at this image, I captured a panorama of 9 images as well, in fact. Oh, I'm trying to just draw my lines, not click. That is a panorama for the sky, and then the same thing, I came back with 9 or so images for the foreground. And with those coming together, blending them up, that's all I needed to do. So here, there's Toph. So let's go ahead and bring up your chats big so that I can see that. And I also can check on something because uniquely, I'm surprised that that link wasn't working. It has been working great when I was testing it. So I'm not sure what went wrong. So I'll do that behind the scenes while any other questions come in. There's 19 of you still hanging out here with me. Again, thank you so much for hanging out. With the live stream delay that happened, oh, that's frustrating. It really is frustrating, but it'll get fixed. It'll definitely get fixed on my next presentation, and with it, you won't lose some of the time that I had for the intro. Gotta run, Rob says. Great presentation. Nice to meet you, Rob. Please come back again. Check out Photog Aaron King on the YouTube channel and let me know if you have any questions. Gerald, which is your favorite stacking software? Okay. Sometimes I'm partial to Sequator versus my Starry Landscape Stacker that's here on my Mac. It kind of comes down to which computer I'm using. I can't use Sequator on my Mac, but I don't miss it when I use Starry Landscape Stacker. When I'm on my PC, I use Sequator because I'm on my laptop with the workshop group, and it's just so easy either way. I would need to do it more with the mindset of what is the difference. When I did a Milky Way Wednesday, we did a test, and I was doing both the exact same image on both sides. We took up so much time doing Starry Landscape Stacker and examples that by the time I could do the final image, I was slowing things down so much over on my laptop that I never finished the laptop version. And so I needed to still show people the laptop version of the Sequator. So I'll have a comparison image there. James Baker. Hey, when I was at Salt Flats, you helped me stack my photos. I can't do anything more to the photo. It won't let me remove the white edges or edit the picture. Any thoughts? So it's interesting. If you're referring to, Jim, that you had the image itself, you did export as TIFFs, put them into the stacking software, run your stack, and then brought it back into Lightroom, you should be able to do all the edits that you want. You can go into Photoshop and crop things. You can Lightroom, you can crop things. So remove the white edges or edit the picture shouldn't be necessarily true, but it won't be the raw. And so what I recommend, and this is one of the methods, there's many methods to stack well. There's not really the only way to do it. There's other ways to do it. And what I mean by that is you can take your raw and go straight into Sequator or Starry Landscape Stacker and do your stacks there with your 10 or 15 or 20 raws right then. Then take that raw back after it's become a TIFF in the stack and take that TIFF into Lightroom and do your edits. Or you can do what I do, where you go into Lightroom, do all your edits to your images in your raw format, make everything down to the last final version of the shot. I've cropped everything the way I want. I've done dodging and burning, if I even do that at all. I don't when I do stacking. I don't bother with it. But I just do everything I'm going to typically do. Then I export all of them as TIFFs. And just by the way, stacking, minimum 10. Just do minimum 10 images is a good stacking rule. So then I have 10 images now that I've exported as TIFFs, high resolution TIFFs, no compression, and I just bring them in. I don't do any size changes. I just change the version from RAW to TIFF. That way it holds my edits that I did. Bring them into Starry Landscape Stacker, bring them into Sequator, and I run my stack from there. And I can edit it after that. So I'm not sure exactly what's missing on yours, but let's see if any of the things I just said answers any of that. Guppy says, did your course cover post-blending sky foreground? No, but yes. Out of Chicago has pulled me in to teach in 2 different online courses, as well as COVID finally revealed the opportunity to have COVID and workshops. And so from June on, I've been really crazy busy, more busy than I thought. So I have a course on dual exposure panoramas that I talk about, and I'm going to create a better lesson for it to put in the course. Basically a polished version of what I've done over on my YouTube channel with that 1 hour Milky Way Wednesday where I talk about how I created it. You can see the work there as well. You can find it right now for totally free, or you can wait for the course to have it. But just so you know, my Milky Way course, tons of videos, and I'm adding more. Simultaneously, that is probably the challenge that everyone faces in my course, is that it's overwhelmingly complete. There's just so much information. I see a lot of people who've had it for 2 years who have barely broken 40-50% of the course. And I want to help people make sure they get through the course better. So I'm going to be doing some work as well where I simplify each lesson and give you the key pointers, like the 2-minute tip almost, for each and every module and lesson. James says, it was more than 10 because we did top and bottom portions that you did, and so many green, so many blue, so many yellow, then stacked it. Right, yeah. So with your shot, I'm thinking we definitely had the sky and the foreground. We had to blend them. We put them together. We had the noise because of Salt Flats, the color of the salt and the way that the the lights we're working on it with the ambient light. We had some extra moire happening, sensor noise that was happening in the corners. And so there's things that we can fix. David, how long will we be able to see Milky Way this year? Every year it's the same. It just depends on your location as to how much you see in November. But basically the lower latitude lines see it a little longer. The south and the north both do not see the Milky Way core in December. So think of it this way. The Milky Way is up every day, every night. The Milky Way core, the thing that we feature in all of our images, is only going to be visible between the end of January through somewhere in the middle of November. That's it. As you go through the months, you go from like 10 minutes of time of seeing the core to seeing it all night. And then that shrinks again back down in November to being 10, 20 minutes of seeing the core, and then it's gone. So we get this accordion, tight to really long hours of the night Milky Way core, and then it goes back to being a tight window. I have a video that I'm going to create talking about the Milky Way's window of opportunity throughout the whole year. I have one for the moon, but I want to do one about the whole year that features, okay, think of it this way. In June, July, and May, all night, every night. Then you get towards, September, October, November, you're starting to shrink your times after a certain hour. It's no longer there. But in the beginning of the year, February, March, April, it's only there in the late hours of the night because it's finally risen. Let's pretend like this glasses case is the Milky Way, right? And the core of the Milky Way is the bottom part right here. Here's my horizon. It finally comes up over the horizon and then rises and rotates and then sets. So you've got a Milky Way that's doing this every night. And it does that every day in our rotation. It's just certain months will show different parts of that motion. And we'll see some nights where it starts off vertical, goes totally straight, and then kind of tips, and then it sets up for morning. We have some nights like right now where it's already vertical, and it's actually going to start tipping. Oh, I should go above the horizon. It's already vertical, it's tipping, and then it starts setting below the horizon. Next month, November, those are the ones that are already tipped and setting like within minutes. So in answer to how long we'll be able to see, you have a moon right now blocking your Milky Way. It's over for now until closer towards new moon. It's September 1st on Tuesday. We'll start seeing the Milky Way again about September 5th, the Milky Way core without the moon around September 5th, depending on where you are locally. And you can start paying attention to opportunities there around the moon where the Milky Way core is visible. It'll be above the horizon for us all the way through middle November, if that answers all of that. James, 10, what's the best day for you to help me through the video? Oh, yeah. So with the one-on-one, James is talking about with the workshop, we have these one-on-ones that I do for workshop attendees. And so we have one that I need to do with James. I have a Calendly that I'm setting up now after today's offer, as well as all those recent workshops I have to set up with everybody. So I'm going to have about 2 or so every other day that I can schedule in, and we'll just get the schedule out to you that you can pick the one that works for you. So now that California smoke has left, Idaho, the moon is full at night. Yeah, exactly. The smoke from the whole crazy California wildfires, those were intense. They covered all of Utah, all of Idaho, and you did have some minimal views of the sky because of it. So now that it's gone, it's definitely ruined by the moon. In fact, let me just give you an example using photo pills while I answer some other questions. Where is my iPad? Over here. And now I'll share the screen. So now in photo pills, we have the moon pill that I go to. And this gives me basically, okay, from American Fork, Utah, the moon rises at 7:09 and the Milky Way becomes visible at full darkness at 9:38. So, okay, the moon's already up. When does it set? I'm going to click over here, go to the next day. So then Monday morning, the galactic core will set on the horizon at 12:45 a.m. And then 5 hours later, the moon sets. And so that is the problem where the moon is in the way over all this time. And I keep pushing forward until about the 5th. Now the 5th happens. The moon doesn't rise on me until 9:51, so I have a half an hour. On the 6th, it goes even longer. The moon rises at 10:15. I go on the 7th, the moon rises even later and later and later and later and gets better and better and better each night. So starting from September 5th, the moon will be out of your way, at least for our area, Idaho and Utah. Northern hemisphere, you're even more northern in Idaho, so you'll have a different minute, but you won't have a different day. You'll still see it on the 5th, most likely. And so let me answer some questions. Do you know how to photo pills? Do you have how to photo pills in a course? Yes. I have a very extensive, comprehensive 7+ hour, 8+ 10 actually, because if you think about the 1.5 hour lessons, 10 hours of comprehensive lessons on photo pills. And so that right now is in an existing standalone offer. You get it with the Milky Way course plus $10. If you email me, David, if you want it now, I'll hook you up for $10 separate and just let you get a hold of that, and you can get a hold of the course. Gerald, do you prefer Lightroom or Photoshop to edit your pics? Okay. I prefer Lightroom in the sense that I can teach someone who's never done it how to do it within minutes. And, they can do it in the future when they get good at it within minutes as well. But when it comes to making even better edits and more quality contrast building in your image and dealing with certain elements that we don't even consider in Lightroom, Photoshop is much better at it, incredibly better at it. But I have gotten by in the last 4 years focusing on my single image panorama, not stacked, just Lightroom images to build a portfolio to show off, hey, you want to come with me to workshop out in southern Utah? See this image I did in Escalante? You could do that too tonight. There wasn't anything advanced about this image. It was just location, timing, composition, and a few other key elements that we talked about already. So Lightroom is better for ease, and Photoshop is better for ultimate. When you use all the power of Photoshop, it's better. Thanks for awesome video, Michelle says. You're welcome. I hope that you'll join. David says, thanks, you're my hero. So remember, my email is aaron@photogadventures.com. It's in those links that I gave you all over the place. If you went and just said something in the comments of this video, you can do it. I'm going to be re-recording this here later this week if you want to come back again to see the other version of this lesson, covering the same tips, but tighter, as I would say that there was a little bit of negligible, poor brevity. I'll say I wasn't very brief in some of the lesson, thanks to the heinous 1 hour delay that shocked me when my computer was doing an update. So it's still 18 of us hanging out here, and it's 7:42. We're still going. If I get another question in the next 5 minutes, I'm happy to answer them. I'm yours. I can eat dinner here in 20 minutes. Let's do it. As long as you guys are interested, I'm interested. I like to be here talking about this stuff. As Mary Beth experienced, we had 4 hours out of Chicago to teach last weekend, and we thought we would have a tough, well, no, I never really thought we'd have a tough time filling that time. I ended up having a tougher time not taking up the entire time and giving Mary Beth some time. That's how much I like talking about this. In fact, this mic has been recorded for 2 hours and 19 minutes. That's how long I've been sitting here getting ready to go. Let's see. Actually, that doesn't count for the time before the upgrade. Nancy says, hey, thanks, Aaron. Enjoyed the presentation. Anxious to practice and take workshops. I would like your PhotoPills course too. Would the $2,000 apply to the Michigan workshop? Yes, absolutely. You could basically, if you've already had interest in the Michigan workshop, you can give yourself a $750 discount by doing the $2,000 thing. You can do it that way if you'd want to, because I'm giving you that opportunity. But know that Mary Beth Kaczynski will be joining me in Michigan, and we'll all be out there, and so it's a good opportunity. I'm not giving this deal to anybody else, and only 10 people can take advantage of it. So if you are interested, make sure you grab it now. If you have any issues that I kind of noticed on my link there, let me know. Let me go ahead and fix that link real quick. I am going to update this part. It's probably going to break a link or two, but I think it's going to fix it in the end from what I experienced there. So I'm just in behind the scenes over here working with the software that handles my store. It's called ClickFunnels. It's what I use to do all these things, and my Milky Way courses, all the content is on there. And I'm just having a weird issue with this one button. So I'm fixing it right now while others who might have questions are going to write them. And I will make sure, let's let this open up in a new tab now, just to make sure I know it's working. Save. Those updates will be live at 19:45. Okay, cool. It says, does your suggestion for MPF plus 4 seconds apply for APS-C cameras as well? Let's do a test real quick. Let me show you based on my old Canon 70D. Let's go to the IMAX screen. So when you go into Photo Pills and you look for spot stars, I look at 5D Mark IV, and with my 24 millimeter plus 4 seconds is around the 8 seconds, so it's worked well. If I change this to, say, my 15 millimeter f2.8 lens on the 5D Mark IV, it says 8 seconds. And if I add 4 seconds to that, it's around 12 seconds. And I've been doing 13 seconds on this lens. So it kind of is a rough gauge of what could be great. EOS 70D, here's a crop sensor. And that with the same lens, since it could fit on it, this EF mount could work, it says 7 seconds instead of 8. So you can see how you lose time, Argus, with a crop. The crop factor will affect your stops of light, and since it's going to be less light, you can go less long. I guess that's not a really good way of saying it, because the situation does cause you to trail faster than the other one, most likely because of the crop factor tightening in. At 15 millimeter, the crop factor is around 20 something millimeter, and that is going to cause you to have a different exposure, different MPF seconds, because when you're zoomed in, you see the stars move faster. It's like, for instance, if I change this focal length to a 50 millimeter, that's really telephoto. And now I've got 2 seconds that I'm allowed to do it. 2. So the tighter you are in millimeter, the less time you're going to have. And most likely that's what it took into account with the 70D, with the crop factor, on top of the entire rule. Again, this rule right here, it's taking into account your sensor, like the megapixels of the sensor that it says right there, as well as some of the other math that is involved in your camera body that's different per camera body. So let's think of another crop sensor. Oh man, off the top of my head, what is that Nikon one? The Nikon 750 is full frame. Nikon 6. Oh, maybe I should go for the Sony. I can see crop 1.5 and 1, so let's just go with the crop. Let's say the D90. It has a crop of 1.5. If I didn't change anything, it's 2.5 seconds, so it's similar as it was with the 70D. If I go back to, I'll go back to 15 millimeter. 15 millimeter is 8.3 and it was 7 something, so they're pretty similar. So every crop factor will have the same kind of crop change. Nikon, let's go with the Nikon D850. Great camera, not a crop. Let's pull that in there. 15 millimeter f2.8. You can go. It's actually 7.2. It's even got it worse. So what happened was the megapixel bump of the D850 from the 90 that I think I had, that countered all of the seconds and made it even tighter of a time. So you can see how it really depends on what camera body you have, and you got to check it out. You really got a starting point with my plus 4 seconds rule. It's nothing that's that's going to ruin anything for you. If you do exactly 7 seconds, you're going to find yourself going really high on the ISO to get that histogram. So if you want to cheat that histogram, cheat the ISO down a bit, bring your seconds up, and go with as many seconds as you're comfortable before start trailing. Dude, Gerald says, I have some other people that may be interested in watching this. Where will you post the link to this video? Well, Gerald, to be honest, I want you to link and share the next recording of it. The one that doesn't have an hour delay, that doesn't kill my intro. I have some intro that I want to do for people who never met me that I think will be even stronger of a presentation. And so if we can coordinate, I should see Gerald plus an email in there, and I can know to send you directly a message and say, hey, here's the link. Honestly, the current one, this YouTube link, you guys can get back into it for the next 2 days. I'm going to cut it on Tuesday because I'm going to recreate new ones instead of having these permanently on there. They're all unlisted, so no one can navigate to them accidentally. They have to have the link. But if you wanted to share someone today this video, go for it. Let them see what it is. Nancy Nagel says, what about the micro four thirds counters the MPF rule? Give me an example of one in mind. I think, I don't know, it's Fujifilm. I am not a gear guy where I spend a lot of time worrying about gear. I'm all about the adventure and the technique of exposure and making sure that things are simple, accessible, and fun to do. So say I went into, oh man, I'm going way far. Let me think. I don't know Fuji very well, but these are crop 5.4. Let's just play around with one just to see what they do. So with their crop in mind, a 15 millimeter f2.8 is all the way down to 4.5 seconds. So it just cuts more and more seconds from it looks like. The OMD EM1, oh man, I have worked with that camera with a workshop attendee, and we had some major battles with that camera just because I am not familiar with it. Okay, Olympus, OMD EM1, okay, OMD EM1 Mark II. No, yeah, EM1 Mark II. Here we go. OMD EM1 Mark II, MPF rule at 15 millimeter f2.8, 6.35. You say you got the Rokinon, and it was a 24 millimeter, and you're sitting there at the same f2 that I like to use it as. You got 3.43 seconds. Now, Nancy, you could get away with 8 seconds, I guarantee, even 10 probably before you hate it, because you're going to see minimal star trails as it gets up to 20, 30 seconds. You're going to see the star trailing, and it'll bug some people like me and other people not as much. So just test it out, see what you like. But 3.3 is a very small amount of time. James says, if you haven't taken his class, it's worth all the money. He helps and guides you. Oh, I'm going to put this up there and let you read it. He's just being nice to me. Thanks, Jim. And you will leave with beautiful pictures or beautiful time lapses. Amazing time lapses. In fact, I've got Jim sitting there in a chair in the water, kind of puddles, sitting out there at the salt flats. I wish we could have found the perfect lake that I've had in the past, but we were unlucky there. Definitely unlucky with the conditions. Okay, I'm giving this a 5-minute warning. It's 7:52. I can go until 8 for sure, but I just want to have a new question over the next 5 minutes. Otherwise, I'll call it in 5. Let's see. Oh, I was making sure that link was working while you guys were gone. So now I'm going to check this out and preview. Click on that. Oh, good. That's working. It may have not worked for some of you who may have tried to get the $2,000 deal. If you're going to get the package, the primer package, the link is working right now. And so when you click on it and go into the final stage where you give your information and your credit card, that's working. I don't know if it wasn't before. It just experienced one slowdown for me while I was sitting here talking to you guys. I clicked on the button just to see again if it was still working, and I found out it wasn't. So I'm glad that I tried. Here, let's go ahead and get out of this. Chris or Chisholm family, or what's your full last name? I want to say Chisholm. I'm just guessing Chisholm, or it could be several options, and I can't think of any. But you are welcome. Thanks so much for coming. Thanks for hanging out with me for really 2 hours now and being here and hanging out. And I really appreciate every one of you who came back. We had 30 plus people in the first attempt. that many of them are like, I can't come. I can't be back. I'm sorry about that. That's probably pretty loud on the mic. They did not come back for the next hour. That was a bummer, but I'll get them next time. They'll want to learn, hopefully, next time. Oh, man, I hate how big this cursor is. It's great and easy. It makes life more simple for you to see what I'm touching or moving my mouse over, but, man, that arrow where it makes contact here, at least on the Mac, is a pain in the bum. So I haven't seen any new question come in the last 30 seconds. So maybe you're thinking, maybe you're still typing. Is there anything else that you've asked that I can maybe emphasize right now? Can't think of anything. I mean, obviously I can think of 1,000 things, but I'm not just going to pull everything out of the hat right now. Every possible lesson. I didn't really emphasize these, but let me pull them up again. These are my workshops that are coming up. We just barely had, I need to change this image to say sold out too, but Alabama Hills is over, Escalante's over, won't be back there till next year. But the North Rim Grand Canyon, will we get notification on the next live stream? If I redo this one this week, which will probably be, wait, today's Sunday, not Monday. I'm going to give it more time on the Facebook ads to get more people in. So I'll probably plan for a September 1st or 2nd. Maybe the 1st. I think it'll be the 1st. I'll do it in the evening on the 1st. So 2 days from now, I'll be doing another one of these. And I will send you all a link in the email saying, hey, yeah, I'm going live, doing that presentation again with some other benefits and changes. So come check it out. And any other live stream I do is now through the guild. I have had to, I guess in a way, put it behind a paywall so that my work on the live streams is only for those that are very, very dedicated, very interested. And then I have YouTube videos all the time. But if you go to my YouTube channel, which I will go there right now, Aaron King YouTube, and I misspelled Aaron. But, oh, who are you? Aaron King YouTube. If you do that search, you get that weirdo. But what about Milky Way? Recently, it was Photog Adventures until recently, so the Google searches are probably more difficult to find me. But there I am, dang the clouds, video after video, Milky Way. So let's go to Aaron King's YouTube channel, and you will see my 2-minute tips. Like we talked about, shutter, ISO, focus, exposure. Where did it go? Did I go past it? I guess ISO is my exposure. Right. Shutter, ISO, focus, all those covered, as well as my 5 favorite tips I go through, but it's in a 2-minute tip format, very quick. You can go down to my live webinar series. These are years ago, but there's a lot of basics that will get covered here that you will enjoy, and they're hour long plus, as well as if you go to videos, I think I've taken out most of my Milky Way Wednesday stuff. And so I need to make a new playlist for them, but you can navigate all the old Milky Way Wednesdays and learn from them. For instance, how far back did this go? 2 years already? Okay, so will you see my edit of the... Oh, there it is. Milky Way Eye in the Sky. This is my 13-minute video about it, and then I did another one about my edit. Oh, is that Milky Way Wednesday hidden now? I had to hide most of them, and so I might have to create a special list that I send the emails and be like, okay, here's all of my long-form lessons that you can't see anymore that are on there. September 1st is your birthday. Hey, Paolo, my birthday is September 22nd. I go from a 38-year-old to a 39-year-old, which feels like the end. Once I hit that 40-year mark, it feels like the end. Oh, David sent me an email. Awesome. I'm going to hook him up with the Photo Pills course. Sweet. Guppy guy. Oh, you already answered that question. That's right. Highly recommended. I would highly recommend September. A lot of birthdays in September. At least I have until the 22nd before I'm 39. And then I have that terrible, terrible, slow passage of time that goes faster and faster and faster as I roll towards 40. When I have that 3 change to a 4, that's going to freak me out, as I'm sure it did for any of you who are over 40. Oy, oy, oy. Okay, looks like we're not getting any new questions. Oh, wait, Gerald says, were you going to use some type of a loop to assist you in focusing at night? Oh, yeah, the Carson Lumi Loop. In fact, my focus video right here was one of the video clips that I didn't get to use in today's version of it that will be in the next one. There it is. This video where I show it being used, as well as you can see the star on the back of the screen, how I work with it. Is it going to throw an ad at me now? You are, aren't you? You just changed to 2 minutes. Okay, we'll just turn that off and not think about the ad. But yes, the answer is yes. I use this guy, the Carson Lumi Loop. It's only $5, very inexpensive. I love it. 10x. Works fantastic. The ISO and histogram would really help. Yes, absolutely. In another lesson someday for the Milky Way Photographers Guild, I should do a lesson on showing my examples of when before I focused on my histogram to when the day that I finally did it and the difference that immediately showed up in my images. Love it. I love seeing more stars. I love seeing everything like that. It's been fantastic. So that is solid. I think we have had a great Q&A session after all. Any one of you who still have questions pending for me, come back to other future YouTube videos and comment. I'll answer questions. Live streams are all entirely the purview of the Guild. If you'd like to be a part of those Milky Way Wednesdays, which are more often than not these days not on a Wednesday, they're on Sundays very often, come join me over in the Guild. It's only $5 a month, and you can subscribe for as many months as you want. Come be a part of it and hang out. We'll be doing some deep sky and star tracking stuff coming up really soon. So thank you so much for joining me. Again, I am Aaron King with Photog Adventures. You can see it right there. I love teaching Milky Way photography. A little exhausted after being here for 5 hours straight, not expecting that 1 hour delay. So I'm ready to go and have some dinner. You, I hope, will have a good night as well. And email the links. Yes, Gerald, I will. In fact, I'll do that before I go have dinner so that I don't neglect it, since they're all open on my screen right now. Thanks again, guys. Have a good night, and I will see you
all right,
next
so
time.
I already have the EQ wedge on here.